Los Angeles has been recovering for nearly 4 months now from the Palisades fire. It erupted the morning of January 7th in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood and quickly expanded, covering more than 23,000 acres as it raged for 24 days, destroying more than 6,800 homes, businesses, and buildings and claiming 12 lives. In her State of the City address last month, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass touted the speed of the city's recovery, but acknowledged that there's still a long way to go, adding that or those who lost a home every day is too long. Joining us now, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Thank you so much for getting up extra early for us. Mayor Bass, can you just start with giving us a quick status update of where the recovery efforts are?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. But first of all, congratulations on the new show. Very excited to watch it.
Thank you.
Well, little over 100 days, the rebuilding, the recovery is going very, very fast. As a matter of fact, if you compare to other fires that have happened in our state, we are to 6 months to a year ahead of other locations. So at this point in time, the Army Corps of Engineers have cleared 1,100 properties, so that's 1,100 families that can start rebuilding now. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a property with the family, and construction was already underway. So we had over 6,000 properties destroyed in Palisades, and I will tell you, within 2 months, we had water and power back up because there are still a couple of hundred people that live in Palisades whose homes were not impacted. So we've had other devastating fires in California, and so my comparison as to how we're doing is based on those other fires. And in many cases, we're 6 months to a year ahead of where other cities were.
Yeah, and Mayor Bass, full disclosure, my husband's family, they lost several of their houses in the fire, so I have seen the recovery efforts up front. But something that Palisadians are still waiting on is a request for Congress for $40 billion for disaster funding across that Gavin Newsom requested that has yet to been fulfilled. What gives you any confidence that the Trump administration is going to prioritize this kind of funding? And what is your pitch to the president and to Congress on why they should appropriate this ASAP?
Sure. Well, first of all, the governor convened a meeting with a number of us this week. And so we're making a full court press effort to make sure that we get those resources. I'm actually optimistic. And the reason why I am is because the White House really increased the amount of support we had in the first phase, where you're removing the hazardous materials and then also the debris. So we had a large number of Army Corps of Engineers that were dispatched to Los Angeles. And so given that track record so far, and we all know it can change, but it has enabled us to move fast. And I will tell you, the support from the governor has been amazing from day one.
Mayor Bass, you know, one of the things that folks who aren't there in LA County, we don't fully appreciate is that Altadena, which also had these fires, is not kind of in your jurisdiction. But I am curious, what are you doing? How are you using the immense resources and influence that you guys have there in LA City to help your neighbors in Altadena, which is majority Black and brown folks?
Yeah, and let me just tell you, LA County is huge. We have 88 cities in it, and we have a number of unincorporated areas, which means there's no mayor, there's no city council, and Altadena is outside of the city of Los Angeles. But I can tell you that the person that governs that, Catherine Barger, who is in our county board of supervisors, as a matter of fact, this year she's the president, the two of us work very closely together. And so we make sure that when we are going for resources, whether it's from the state or the federal government, that we do that in lockstep unity.
Madam Mayor, I've got two questions for you. One is piggybacking off of Jackie's question about federal assistance. Have you talked to President Trump, or when was the last time you talked to President Trump about the needs of your city?
Well, I will tell you that I'm in contact with representatives of the administration, but I talked to President Trump when he came out to L.A., and it was a few days after his inauguration.
And
Just
the
once.
contact Okay, and the contact you have with the administration, would you just characterize the contact as constant, ongoing? Do you have any trouble getting through to anybody, is what I'm asking.
No, I haven't. And, you know, it definitely has benefited me, served 12 years in Congress, that I've seen a number of my former colleagues receive appointments in the administration. And so it's not been constant. There's not been a need for it to be constant, but I've not had difficulty getting through. And so I'm just very optimistic. I mean, the effort is going along very well now. And one population that isn't talked about much are the staff, the employees that worked in the homes, the housekeepers, the nannies, the gardeners, and also people who worked in the business area. So one thing that we did very quickly was we opened up 4 centers around the city, because it's not like there was a database of those people, for the impacted workers and their families to make sure that they received the assistance they need. And then a number of them really were small business owners. If you were a gardener and you had 10 properties, you had employees. So we have to make sure that attention is paid to them as well, many of them also being immigrant workers.
Madam Mayor, this is actually my second question, and it sort of switches gears here. As you well know, we all know, lots of folks were not happy with the city's response, with your response. And in fact, on Monday, Silicon Valley philanthropist and former RFK Jr. running mate Nicole Shanahan and the group that she is helping to fund filed papers to begin a recall effort. Begin an effort to recall you as mayor. And she wrote on X, Los Angeles has endured enough. Once a city of hope, it's now overrun with crime, chaos, and suffering. Today, we begin the effort to revive the city of angels for the people. First step, recalling Karen Bass. Your reaction to that statement, but also this effort to recall you.
Yes, you know what? Sadly, recalls have almost been a rite of passage for elected officials in California. When Gavin Newsom faced a recall, there were 67 recalls going. What her motive is, I have no idea, because she's not connected to Los Angeles in any way. And I do have to say that what she is saying about Los Angeles is not true at all. We have reported on a big reduction in crime. The city is not in chaos. I know that the coverage of the fires in the beginning, a lot of people thought the entire city was on fire. And Los Angeles is a very big, very sprawling city. And so I would disagree with what she's saying to begin with. And the status of the recall, I don't know. I certainly hope it does not move forward. It doesn't make sense. It costs an awful lot of money. And frankly, I'm up for re-election in June, and the earliest there would be an election would be January. So given the deficit that we're facing in Los Angeles, the last thing we need to do is to have 2 elections. The other thing is that I am laser focused on getting the people who lived in the Palisades to return home. And the idea that you would inject something like this into the state's worst natural disaster in recent history, I think is frankly irresponsible.
Well, on that point, Mayor Bass, my understanding is that in order for Palisades residents to start rebuilding, they need to provide soil testing in order to get mortgages to start that rebuild process. My understanding is also that in previous fires, FEMA had taken on the important task of doing this soil testing for contamination. Why weren't you and your team able to get FEMA to continue this practice of doing the soil testing themselves?
So let me just say that you do not need that in order to rebuild. So we have over 300 people who are in line. Their building permits have already been approved because I fast-tracked everything, eliminating the red tape, also eliminating the fees, because why should someone have to pay fees? It's not like they're remodeling their home. This was a natural disaster. And so what you are referring to, though, unfortunately, is an issue for Washington. That's not a local, nor is it a state decision. It is a decision about the mission of FEMA and what was required. In previous fires, you are correct, testing was required in the first phase. The first phase is now over. We are in the second phase. So it would be up to the White House to expand that. Now, what some individuals have done is that they have gotten testing on their own, whether it was from a philanthropic area, initiative, or insurance, or they've paid for it themselves. But if you do find toxics, then you also really would be obligated to remove those toxics. Unfortunately, that would not be an expense that FEMA would reimburse.
Mayor Bass, in the minute that we have you, the governor of your state, Governor Gavin Newsom, has come under fire from Democrats for this podcast that he's had, where he's had far right-wing media personalities like Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon. You know, his explanation is that at the end of the day, you know, we should be having conversations, and that Democrats lost, and that you guys should be having conversations with everyone. Is he making a political mistake here, or is this a good move for him, and should other Democrats do it?
You know, I mean, I have to be honest with you. I've not heard the podcast. I've not been following the podcast.
I know you've seen the clips, ma'am.
But what I have followed, honestly, I probably haven't. I am aware of the podcast that he's doing. But I just have to tell you, I'm laser focused, working with the governor, lockstep, on getting Los Angeles rebuilt. In 15 months, Los Angeles is going to welcome the world for the World Cup. And you know, in 3 years, we have the Olympics. So while we are focusing on getting the Palisades rebuilt and the other areas in the county that were devastated by the fires, we're also preparing for these major international events. With all of that on my plate, sorry, not following the podcast.
Karen Bass, mayor of the great city of Los Angeles, thank you very much for coming to The Weekend.